Hello, everyone. This is Dr. J, host of the Sexuality Space. Welcome to our live event. My silent, maybe silent co host, Misha Elliott, is behind the scenes preparing tweets for today. And as everyone is gathering into the space, I wanted to share some information for those listening to the replay. The Sexuality Space is live every Wednesday, noon Eastern Time on Twitter. I have worked to create a sex positive community where we talk about different sex topics, meet CEOs of sex companies, sex educators, researchers, and writers. I work to integrate sexuality in everyday life by being seen right here in the daylight doing my work. Welcome to you all. As a reminder, this is a recorded space which will live on the Twitter timeline and be repurposed on my website, Flogen playlist, and YouTube. I see some regulars have arrived. Hello. Please note that the space is now equipped with its own chat feature in the bottom right-hand corner. You can ask questions there as the space goes along. Last week, we talked with the Chief Operating Officer of Woodhull Freedom Foundation, Mandy Sally, her journey in the sexuality world, while we highlighted Woodhull's mission and projects around sexual freedom is a human right. Today's conversation is around the idea of community, how to build it in the wake of social media platform changes. So this ought to be an interesting process. I see, Misha, that you have now gotten the co-host capabilities. Can you let me know you're there? No emojis working today? Hi, Ramon. Can you drop a message in the right-hand corner and let me know that you can hear the space today? I did not have a Twitter update, so I'm hoping that this is going to be smooth sailing. All right, you're waving at me. That's great. And Misha's there. Well, one of the processes that I wanted to talk about today, several things actually. First off, I am waiting on the FedEx delivery of the purple sex cards. They will arrive today. They are out for delivery. So I'm really excited to see where that's going to go and how we're going to use that this November. So I know that, for instance, this week, Misha has put herself on Patreon. So this is a community for making money there. So I'm going to be interested if she can chat with us for a few minutes about why she decided to do that and the community that she's working on there. I have been working with, as many of you know, Joseline Mane as a consultant in business and with the Circle communities. And he has set up his monetizing community there on Circle, and I joined that in November of last year. And in that process, I've seen how he's created the community there and what he's wanted to do in terms of having a place to have creators work together, collaborate, have a place to talk, have a place to learn together. And so in the Circle community, and I'm going to tell you a funny story that happened yesterday. You join the Circle community as a whole when you become a member of the community. And they have office hours every week to talk about what the features and functions are of the community. And I've been going regularly so I can see how different groups of people are setting up their communities and things that they've been doing to help themselves with that, how they're going to market it, just all sorts of details. And so yesterday, I went to the designated time on my RSVP email from Circle for the event, and I clicked on the event and I looked down in my Zoom container and it said, "You are the organizer." And I thought, well, that's really interesting. I did not organize this. All I did was RSVP. And as I'm sitting there trying to figure out what's going on, I hear a voice go, "Hello, how are you today?" And I looked up and people had come into the Zoom meeting. And funny enough, they had never been to Circle office hours before. So they thought I was the Circle person and talking about what that had to do with. So there were five of us total, and we sat there and talked about what our individual communities were. And the cool part was talking about collaborations. And there was a man there who actually was in mental health and doing some specific sexuality things. So it was really cool to meet with him. Last week, I met Danica Bloom, who is a romance author, and she has created a community on Circle, and talking about how she's tied a course into that and where that's going to go. So, what I've been thinking about, and Ramon, I know that you can't speak today, so I am going to be looking down to see if you have any questions as we go along. So, I figure your fingers can probably type. So, I'll be checking there, to see if you want to ask any specific questions. One of the things that I've been concerned about, and it's interesting all the times that we've been doing a sexuality space, it's also interesting that there are only three people in the space today, which is really interesting in terms of the conversation about what's happening with Twitter, what's the focus and function, what's the algorithm now, what all is going on in the process, and what control do we have over things. Well, that's one of the interesting things about Circle, and that I've spent a lot of time thinking about, is that given that it's a platform that is created for you to be a teacher, and it has all of the functioning for live events within the community, and that you can decide how you want to have a open community, a private community, a secret community, how you want to create a paywall for that, how you want to address what you can do for your folks in the community, and to facilitate their um, immersion and engagement in the content that you're wanting to provide. So, what I'm going to tell you about is how I'm thinking about putting the community together at this point in time. And I decided, just like the sexuality space being an umbrella component, that I would make the sexual wellness community be an umbrella component too, so that you would be able to come into the space and there will be areas that are open. And maybe this will be the place where I house the sexuality space, or whatever its rendition may be in 2023. We don't know about that. And I will look to have all content and resources available for people to check that out there, but that I would set up three separate communities beyond that. And the first one would be this month coming together with the Purple Sex cards that the lovely marketers have been helping me work the process to have within the brochure of how to use the cards will be a QR code that will send people to the Circle community, where they will be able to download a larger PDF directions, reflections, and that sort of thing related to Purple Sex and how to use the cards. And in that process, it will put them within the community. And then I will be able to provide information with videos about the different cards and that sort of thing, as well as using the space to coach people, have small groups to put that together for teaching in the how did you use it, what worked well for you, and that sort of thing. Hi, Rachel. I was just saying that this is an interesting process, and if you want to come up and chat, feel free. This is the first time I've held a space that we have four people, and I'm wondering, where does this fit with our new processes in Twitter? It'll be interesting. Mish, go ahead.
Apologies, I was having technical difficulties this morning
Oh,
or this afternoon, of course, and scheduling issues, which happens
I get that.
when you work a day job.
Hello.
Hey, Rachel.
Rachel.
She's alive.
Well, this I tell you, everything's a lot. I'm delighted that you're here. This could be a preview for our conversation that we're going to have over in your book marketing chat. And I was thinking about all the changes that are coming to Twitter, and you and I have not talked, but I am going to be opening a sexual wellness community specifically on Circle. And I was just saying that Jocelyn has helped me put together a when the cards come, when someone receives their cards, they'll have a brochure on the inside for, here's how this in a shoestring works with a QR code that will send people to the Circle location where they can download a larger component, which into the future will be turned into a book with an ISBN and all of that sort of stuff. And looking to see how we can help women have conversations about sexuality and designating good time and space for their own direction to explore, discover, investigate, and be the sexual person that they want to be before they die. And, for me, it's always been sex education as a birth to death proposition, and we never know when in life we're going to get the information that's going to fit for us to say, I'm first, this is what I'm going to do, check things out and that sort of thing. So, Rachel, welcome.
Oops, had to turn on my mic. Thank you. Very excited. So you're going to be visiting me for book marketing chat in like 2 weeks, I think, right? We
Yeah.
decided on November 15th. So I think this is such a fantastic idea, marketing wise, for any author who wants to share the main points or themes or goals or whatever it is that you have going on from the book, from our own books. And I haven't seen this before. So when you showed it to me, I was like, this is amazing. Love it. So really excited to share more and learn about it with you.
Well, you came in after I made the big announcement that it's on the FedEx truck right now headed to my house.
Woo-hoo!
So I actually get to have it in my hot hands today and see what I think, and it'll be the prototype and what changes I might want to make and that sort of thing. And of course, I had to give my partner in crime a prototype too. So 2 prototypes will be in here, and I'll be sending that on to Mish so she can take a look at it for herself too. So I'm really excited to talk with you about how the idea came about and where I see this going for many authors, that we really are needing to think about the expansion of how we do our work and how we can get those main points off. And yes, I was excited when you immediately said that you thought this is a great way for me to think about the book marketing book that you've done, the 30-day challenge. It would be a great way to come up with an outline for what you wanted to do with that. So I'm really, really, really excited about that. And I see that my friend, Miss Dr. Melissa, is here. Hello, Melissa. How are you today?
I'm better now that I'm with all of you wonderful people. Good morning or afternoon, wherever you are.
Yes, thank you. I was saying that today is a very low key day in terms of what I'm talking about. Um, Sexual wellness community is going to be created on Circle, and that I have divided it up into 4 areas where I will house the sexuality space. Information and resources in that location where people will have a designated place that they can go and get all of that. Then I'm going to have a designated group for writers where they will be able to work with me and Misha for scenes with sex and provide information there. And do some different course teaching kinds of things within that direction. And I have connected with several folks already on Circle who are doing some similar things in my content area. So we're looking for different collaborations. And Purple Sex for women will also be in that location. Now, Ramon, since you're here, I can go ahead and say I officially met with Dr. Lindsay Harper yesterday of Rosie, the sexual wellness platform for women, of which I am their erotica editor. And we're going to have a totally secret and private space just for Rosie writers. So this will be a really neat way for us to be able to come together and have conversations about what has worked well in our writing and ideas and different support that we can provide one another there. So I'm really, really excited about that. So Rachel or Melissa, did you have any other comment or thought? Because I want to pop into some of the ideas about what's changing on Twitter and where people might be going in the wake of that.
I'm good. Just anxious to hear. I've been in my own little world with all of these health things. So I'm not up on all the changes that are coming through. I just found out yesterday that ticketed spaces are gone. Like I had no
Yeah.
So
Well, I
yeah,
tell you, when you
bring it
have a
on, man.
medical emergency in your life, it kind of focuses in on what you need to be taken care of. And
Yeah.
Twitter is definitely not in that arena. So I
No.
absolutely understand. And I think, one of the things that we've talked about as authors is how important your own website is, how important your email list is, and the
Mhm.
place that you are putting your time and energy that you have control over. And I think that that's one of the things that I'm looking at with changes in administration and things that are going on this social media platform, as well as others. I said to Misha this morning that I did my usual Instagram post that goes over to Facebook, and guess what? It didn't go on my author page. And I was like, okay, what has changed on this from last week? So
Yeah.
there's all sorts of things that are going on. And also by having a family member who works at the Google, I get some information about where technology is going and how things are going in a different direction. So it just made me think that maybe I do want to have a little more control over where I am and what I'm doing. And those of you, and Mistress K, I see you're here. I've been talking with Kale too, because he's going to be doing a specific RSS feed for the Moan app. And so it may be that I move the social audio component to a place that is supportive of what we're doing. And Tickle.life, who is the company in India, they are working specifically to create an infrastructure to support sex tech entrepreneurs to help with payments and making sure that they're the buffer between any negativity or non-support that a creator might be having. And so they are hosting podcast locations there. So with an RSS feed from the Moan app, then I may be putting that directly here. So January 2023 is going to be an interesting time frame to take a look at what I'm going to be doing specifically in a new way related to the content of sexuality and have a little more control in that direction. But in terms, Rachel, of what exactly is changing, I think it's throw up your hands and go, that's a great question. I don't know what that's going to be, but this is more about how can I run businesses the way I want them to be run so that, that'll be accessible to me. And the Circle folks have been wonderfully, wonderfully helpful, and they've been upbeat and positive with my content. And the cool thing about it is there is no distraction on Circle because you aren't dealing with social media. You go there specifically to do the work that you're going to be doing. And um, you're focusing in with upbeat and positive people who are interested in education or community or bettering themselves. And I started this conversation today, and I'm going to reshare it because it was so funny. We had a time change in Portugal. So Europe's dealing with a different time frame than us. And so I had set up my Circle office hour meeting for the Circle community where I joined them to hear about, new things that are going on or answer questions that people have. And I got the email for the event to start, and I go in and click the button to go to it. And I look down and it says, "Hello, you're the organizer." And I went, "No, I'm not. All I did was join this particular group." And I'm looking down trying to read what's going on, and I hear somebody say hello, and I look up, and there are people who have joined this space. And I find out they've never been to an office hour before, and they thought I was the circle representative. And I was saying, no, 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 I'm like you. I'm just a user. But since I have been to the events before, I can tell you this is what they do. Here's the person who runs it, and here's how it runs. And why don't we just take a moment and introduce ourselves since we're all community users in this process? So even yesterday, talk about serendipity, there was a sexuality professional in the group of 5 of us. And he and I got to have a conversation about what we could do with collaboration. So I'm thinking that Circle is ending up being like a gigantic Rolodex of all sorts of people who are providing all sorts of interesting content. And then people know about who you are, and then they can refer people over to your community. So I'm kind of excited to see where that's going to go. Misha, are you in a place where you can chat now?
Please hold.
I don't know if that was a yes or a no.
That was a please hold.
Oh, please hold. Well, one of the things, I don't know if all of you are aware, but Misha this week created a Patreon account for herself. And it's always interesting to me to see how people create the different levels of what they want to provide, which is very similar to this in the community, to say that I'm going to have this larger umbrella, which is the sexuality wellness for resources, and then it's going to break down to specific groups. So here's the writers, here's the women, and what you provide. So Mish, how did you go about that process to think it through and do what you're doing?
Well, it's going to be a work in progress because I am looking at other authors and what they're doing
Mm-hmm.
so that I can get a feel for what might be beneficial to me and the patrons giving me money.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I want to be helpful, and my biggest thing in life is to be useful. So I'm like, it's time I monetized it a little better. And now that Patreon accepts certain types of content, I am trying them out to see how it works.
Well, I like one of the things that you were talking about. They actually have a marketplace. So you actually have a mug that's part of your tiered items that people can get into. I like that.
Yes, there's Midnight with Misha, and I'll be doing videos of me reading my stories from the blog. Um, and if you subscribe to that tier, it's $15 a month. And once you subscribe for 3 months, you get a mug with the logo on it.
Yeah.
Their merch is very limited, in my opinion. They only offer like 8 or 9 items, and that was the best one for me because
Mm-hmm.
I drink coffee, so why not?
Well, yeah, and then you can put other liquid items in a mug too. So, it's a multi-purpose
Absolutely.
item. So, yes, it doesn't just have to be for coffee. We can use other things in that process. So, the whole process, and Misha and I have discussed in detail, plans about the future and, different kinds of things. And I think that a lot of us, and I love that Rachel's in here because she's been probably the most supportive in the author world for how do we get ourselves out there so people know who we are and what we're doing. And then where does that fit in the monetization direction, whether it's the affiliate links, the wonderful things that Rachel's been sharing with us from Bad Redhead Media direction, and just knowing that we're connected in community in a lot of different ways to support each other. I never expected, and some of you may have heard this story before, I never expected to be a writer. This was not on my to-do list in any way, shape, or form. Um, even though I've been in the field for 46 years in sexuality, it's been in private practice, it's been in a college classroom, but it has not been independently writing material, creating content, working for companies that are privatized in, the work that they're doing. And so it was funny yesterday, talk about do your work out in public. When I met with Dr. Harper yesterday, she said, I'm a visual person and I absolutely love the cards that you sent me, but I got stuck because I didn't know what I was supposed to do with them, even though I read the directions. And so it was funny to think about how you, and Rachel, we've talked about this, break things down into even smaller steps than we think they may need to be put in so people can understand how a product works, or best case uses for that direction. Have you found that to be the case when you're dealing with authors and creating different information for their platforms?
Yeah, I mean, branding is branding, right? So it doesn't really matter what your genre is. We just need to identify what your interests, expertise, desires are, and that ends up being what, 4 or 5 or 6 keywords or key phrases that you focus on. So what I loved about what you're doing is it's super on brand, and I kind of hate that term because it's kind of redundant, but it makes sense. Like what you're doing is a natural extension, this deck of who you are and what you do. And I think breaking it down for people, because, sexuality freaks people out, right? For whatever reason. But I love how the cards are very beautiful and encouraging and supportive. And I think that's what anybody needs, whether you're a writer or a person wanting to learn more about your sexuality and your body. Especially, I think growing up, we have all these weird things that we learn about sex, whether it's religion or politics or just how our family raised us. And a lot of times I feel like what you provide, Dr. J, is so valuable to people who may not understand how their own body works. And it feels embarrassing. Like, I'm an adult, I should know, right? But a lot of people don't, because of all that, mind messing up. I won't say the F word. And I think a lot of times it relates to, let's say, being an author and trying to understand the whole marketing process feels very overwhelming, which is why I wrote the 30-day book marketing challenge. But even then, some people will come to me and say, it just feels so overwhelming. Like I couldn't get past the first week, which is Twitter week. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. Look at it from an overall perspective. And so, yeah.
Well, too, I was thinking, Circle had some wonderful summit on how to use Circle in general, and they also had a course on how to put together a course. I'm going to pause that because I want to tell you, you'll find this interesting, Rachel, one of the things they did, but I see Misha has her hand up, so let me go there.
I was just thinking about, writing and branding, and my daughter telling me that she wants to write. And she's looking at traditional publishing and all these things. And she's like, Mom, what does traditional publishing actually do? And this was through text. So of course I laughed to myself and I give her the spiel. And she's like, but I just want to do the writing. And I said, then you're going to want to be a self-published author, an indie author, or find a company that's going to help you with that. And she's like, but I don't want to do it. I just want to write. And I said, okay, I'll do your marketing.
Yeah,
I said, I have the people, I have the tools. I'll do it for you when you're ready.
Yeah, and that's when you say you need to start going to book marketing chat so you have a clear picture of how many hats you get to wear in the world. And I see Melissa's laughing. Yeah. Well, it's interesting thinking about the entire branding and why I'm looking at this as sexual wellness community is because, Rachel hit the nail on the head. I mean, that is the arena that I have lived my entire professional life. But when I take a look at what I do for writers, where I'm talking about physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, and how you tie all of that into the story is no different than me talking about the purple sex cards and saying I've divided them up into physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And here are ways that you can utilize that. And then it ties into the journal where you're talking about taking a book, Rachel, and creating the card deck. Well, this was backwards. And this is the evolution of what, work has to do with. I have a contract to do a sexual wellness journal for women. And because my co-author had a death in her family, the book is probably going to be revamped to be done differently than what the original plan was. And in that process, when I went on the big retreat in November, there was a lot of just wonderful creativity. And I kept thinking about the idea of being on top of a mountain, being deep in the woods, where we go for reflection, where we go to get that energy. And for me, growing up on a farm, it's, I have roots. My feet feel like they get into the dirt and I'm, really into the process. But that is the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And it works in all areas of your life. Nobody's ever really applied it directly to sexuality. So it was even funny yesterday talking to an OBGYN saying, let me break this down for you because I know you just kind of stay in that mental world where somebody says, here's what's going on in my physical body. And, she wanted to be very focused on how she could help people. And I said, one of the hardest things for anybody is to create and carve out the time that we set aside for ourselves. And so this is a tool, just like in the world that I write erotica, that's a tool. All of these things are to help people get to where they want to be in the sexual quality of life that they would like to have. And so it's interesting to think how things emerge. So I meet with the publisher for the journal and I say, I've created these cards and now I get to put the journal together for how to use them. I already sent Misha one of her surprise presents, which is a planner for the entire year, which is tied directly to cards. You pull a card every day and you think about what that has to do with. And where do we stop and put ourselves in a place where we can be kind and warm and considerate of our own self. And that's what I see the purple sex cards allowing people to do. And then the journal, coming out with that. But I wanted to tell you from the course that I did at Circle, they did a wonderful how to launch your course. So my course would be specific to be a small group course for helping folks utilize these cards. And it was set up with 12 emails. And it was write these 12 emails out that tells your story about how your product came to be, why this is the passion for you. It was all the storytelling items. It was all the information that we know about branding and about, what's important, what's your why. And so right this minute, I know that Misha and Rachel and Melissa saw the card deck. So I want you both, all of you, to know that that very first card, and in this email sequence that I'm writing, the first card that I show is the earth physical card of the woman in the woods, because it started there for me. It was the jumping off point. It was the place of energy. That's what we don't have enough of. Helping people get back to where they are in the world and let the world pour into them in goodness and everything that's great for balance and alignment and working the sexuality part. And I see Mistress K is on the stage. Welcome.
Hello. I have just been listening as I go around and clean up my house and and loving all of this. But I just wanted to pause and take a moment to acknowledge the emotions that are coming up for you right now, because this is so clearly a labor of love that you have done, and something that you feel incredibly passionate about. And I'm incredibly passionate about the importance of it in the world for people's health and well-being and the changes that it can in view. So I just wanted to kind of give some space for those emotions that are coming up, because you have worked very hard and you should feel as passionate about it as you do. And I want to acknowledge what a tremendous step this is, and all the emotions that can be welling up because of that step.
You were too kind. You were too kind. And my students would tell you, man, she can cry anytime, but she keeps going. She just keeps walking through it, going, yes, the emotion's there. It's the energy. It's pushing me forward. It can keep me going. And with this lovely group of people, I get to share something that the world, except Misha, already knows, but you all don't know. Yesterday, I got to see a confidential PDF of a book that will be released on Valentine's Day. And I am quoted many times in the book. And it is an exciting thing to think that I started my writing career and reached a place where Rachel Kramer Bussell, the most well-known editor in the erotica world, asked me to be part of her book on how to write erotica. So I got to see it yesterday, and it's pretty darn awesome what she has put together. And I think that I was put here to do some very specific things I didn't even know about. And they're happening right now. And 2023 is going to be a truly interesting year. Between Purple Sex, between the journal, between Scenes with Sex book, and my first full novel, all coming out next year. It's going to be pretty big. So thinking about sexual wellness community and thinking about Mistress K, you're on Moan. How do you see me using Moan as a way to infuse the sexual wellness community that I'm creating on Circle?
I think Moan is incredibly geared toward what you want to do. It is such a sex positive space, and it is a space where discussions are so wide ranging that it can be anything from someone. I mean, we had a conversation last night. I hosted a room that I jokingly called the Halloween Hoedown. And I just wanted to, in the lifestyle, in the swinger and the kink lifestyle, Halloween's a big holiday for people in the lifestyle. We all like to dress up and play around, but in this, it's kind of like everybody else is having a taste of our fun as well, because we have theme nights all the time and lifestyle stuff, but Halloween for me is a very family oriented time. It is a time for me to be with my little cock blockers and my and my family, and create those wonderful long lasting memories. So I don't get to do as much lifestyle stuff, and I wanted to create a space where we could kind of talk about all of the shenanigans that we did. And the conversation ranged from some really steamy stuff to some new things that people have, new projects that people have and are coming out with. And then by the end of it, it dove into BDSM safety. And as a community, this person shared that they had an unsafe experience in the kink world. And they came in asking for advice on how to move forward and have a safer experience. And the Moan community rallied around without shaming, without judging, without blaming. It was, there was no of you should have done this or you should have done that. It was, this is what works for me. And these are the things that I look out for. And these are the red flags that you might want to consider moving forward. And to have a space where there is, where we make space for all those different kinds of conversations within just 1-2 hour period is really, really wonderful. So I think that the Moan app is ideal for what you want to create. And because they now have the recording aspects, they're moving towards, they want to be more friendly towards content creators. And it is it's an app designed to have conversations around sex and around all aspects of sexuality. So for me, I think it's your home.
Yeah. Well,
for
I'm
me, more so
excited.
than the Twitter spaces, I see Moan being your home, and I can only hope that it continues to grow and get bigger because it is a necessary space for
Yeah.
wellness, and not just sexual wellness, just wellness.
Yeah. And it's funny, you may not know this, but I'm going to get to meet Kale in December because I'm going to be in Austin, and he and I've already set up a time. He's the CEO of the Moan app. And so, I haven't seen, and I don't know if this is iOS versus Android, I don't get an option to record a space when I've looked at setting one up. So that's, one of the things that I want clarity about, which is why I really haven't spent time for me creating a space on there. I've just been going and listening to you and having fun in some other spaces and listening what people are doing. But I want to address something that you said because this came up yesterday in Rachel Thompson's group where she was talking about tips for helping people to feel safe. And every time I talk about sex, I'm always talking about safer sex, that I don't see that there is safe sex because anything can happen in any different direction, and all you can do is work the process to set things up in the best possible way for you. And I think that includes conversations as well. So, for instance, Misha has been sitting here saying, there have been people who have wanted to speak. We don't have any people in common. We don't know anything about that person. And because this is in this space, I'm the host and it's the top down direction, that I need to make sure that all of you feel good about being in this space and that it's authentic and non-judgmental, and it has all of the, that really authentic components of people to it. And it's important to me that we think about that. So yes, somebody could record this. Yes, they could do that. But, all I can do is what I have control over, which is who I let up to speak and what I know about them and that sort of thing. But I think you're addressing, safer, and how do we create a community where people know this is where they can go to talk. And Rachel, you may want to address this because you've done that with your communities on Tuesdays. Can you address that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, what specifically? Sorry, I was focused on
your sexual abuse chat, how
yeah.
you go about creating a space that people feel like this is where I can be and it's okay and it's calm.
Yeah. So thank you for clarifying. So when I first started on Spaces, the one thing that I liked about it is that I had more control over who was in my space. Whereas if you do a chat on the timeline, anyone can use the hashtag and show up. and that can still happen. But I've completely moved my sex abuse chat off the timeline, and I'm only doing it on Spaces. And I think that makes it more safe. Some people will say that they feel less safe in Spaces than they did on the timeline because it feels more personal and it can be more revealing. I mean, excuse me, listen to your voice, Dr. J. You always get me. I got all teary listening to you. So proud and so excited
Aw.
that my sister is doing so incredibly well and had such meaningful experiences. And I love that you can share that with us. And it's in a safe space. So when I say safe space, what I mean is I do things like, and you have Misha here to do that for you, vet anybody who wants to be a speaker, because we get a lot of people who will quote unquote dive bomb into a space just to talk about their own stuff, whatever that may be. And so I don't allow that. I work with Dr. Alexandria Salmon, and she has learned, we've both learned through this process, kind of when people show up and then they leave quickly, you know, they're just there for their own attention. But you also have to be sort of on guard with topics around sexuality, because some people just see sex and think they're going to come in here and do some kind of orgy or something. I don't know. I mean, mine literally says sex abuse chat, and I still get people in there talking about crazy stuff. So I don't allow anybody up if I don't know them. And that's my choice. And I think that's really important when creating a safe space. The other thing that we can do now is, as hosts or just as Twitter account holders, we can open our DMs up, which means it's kind of like if you're on Facebook, you know what this is. So they sort of show up in like requests, and you have to click on it and then go through them. Whereas they don't just show up in your DMs unless you're following each other. So I like that I can open up the DMs during at all times, but I remind people during a space, you can go ahead and DM me, even if we don't follow each other, if you have a question, because I won't let you up until I've seen your face in here a few times. And people seem to be pretty understanding of that. And if they have an issue with it, then that's their issue. It's not mine, because it's more important to me that not only do I feel safe, but the people coming to my spaces feel safe.
And I think from a wellness perspective that, mindset and our mental capacities are, part of that balancing point that, we need to be looking at all of that physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And it's, we take that on as saying this is a place where we can come together and have those conversations, which is, for me, since wellness hardly ever gets addressed in the sexuality world, when you put sexual wellness together, it's like, wow, what does that even mean? And most people probably wouldn't necessarily think how big and broad my umbrella is in terms of the different things that we would be talking about. And, if you look over, May 2021, if I were, which I should do, create a moment of every single space that I have done and the people that we have talked to and the directions that we have been a resource to give people, you can go to this location and these folks can help you with this, and you can go to this location and these folks can help you with that. And then we've had specific conversations where we discussed things like movies or the pleasure rooms on Netflix, where we talk about why those are so important to have conversations around and why we don't discuss pleasure. And it's now been added as a, holistic, worldwide definition of sexuality. So now we should be able to really talk about these things. Go ahead, Mish.
A thought popped into my head when you said how broad your umbrella is. And I had to share it because some days everything is just la-di-da-di-da going along, moving in our spaces and getting things ready. And then the next thing I know, I'm getting a paragraphs and paragraphs of DMs of ideas of things that you want to do. And I'm like, what is going on here? And every time it's something new and better, and it integrates with everything that you're already doing. It's just another way of reaching out to a new group of people. The reflection cards, the purple deck, that's going to bring a new crowd into this space. It's going to bring them into the journal. It's going to bring them into the writing, and they're going to learn from various ways of how to embrace themselves on several levels.
Yeah, and it's like the adult sex education we never got. And, I see so many people providing information, but do they have the structure and the foundation to be able to bring it forward? And one of the
or even the
biggest,
qualifications. I feel that's a big thing. You can
well,
have knowledge, but sometimes having those qualifications is kind of like a bonus level.
Well, I was going to say that's a bonus level, but there are a lot of people in the world who have spent much time doing personal investigation,
Yes.
exploration, discovery, and that they are utilizing the ideas that I bring forward, and it transforms them so they can be someone to facilitate and move that discussion forward for another person. And I think
Hmm.
that's a huge, valuable thing. And I believe that that's also one of the things that's a key component of the MONAP is that there are so many people who can talk about their space in the world of sexuality, their little niche, their corner, whatever it is that they enjoy and would like to be able to have conversations about, then that's the place that's set up for them to do that. Mistress K, you want to address that?
Well, I was going to say that pretty much describes me. I don't have, I would love to have the letters after my name of being a certified sex educator and that sort of thing. I think that would be wonderful for me to have my bona fides,
Yeah.
but I don't have them. And so I'm very careful when I try to host spaces, and especially on my blog when I'm writing about these concepts, about saying, I'm not a medical expert, I'm not certified, but these are the things that I've learned, and here is a whole page of resources of where I learned them. So don't just take my word for it, go to
Yes,
these
do the research.
places. And I'm very careful about that, and I know that there aren't people, and I agree with you that it is helpful to have that kind of certification and stuff behind there, but I think that you have to, I think, like any kind of sources of information, you need to have more than one.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's that, going back to that kind of scientific method, it's you have the idea, but then you've got to be able to replicate it. So how much do these ideas hold up? How much are they across the board? And even that is flawed as well, because there are things that we thought we knew 20 years ago that have since been proven that are not the case. And so it's all growth and all learning.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
all in
continuous
evolution.
learning.
Yeah, evolution, perspective. And Dr. Melissa, I know you got a perspective that's different from everybody else.
Yay.
That's You may have oversold me. Mainly, I have questions about. I would really like to learn more about Circle. I was poking around on it the other day, thinking I'd set one up, and then I'm in a huge period of learning tech that's way beyond my head, and I thought, I at first I have to figure out the script, and then I have to do one thing at a time. Otherwise, I start dissociating from my body because the tech stuff gets too much for me. But I'm interested in Circle, and I'm very interested in what you were talking about. How Circle had a seminar, I think you said, about course development, because that's the course development is my next step after I
Well,
learn the
I
script.
have, let me say, I'm on my page with Circle right now. Let me give you a notion of what I was talking about. They have had, I don't know if you've somebody or any teachers here are familiar with Teachable or Kajabi or any of these different places where you have hosted your courses that you're doing, a lot of the big people who have used those particular items are um, moving their work to this location. So I'm finding that to be interesting. So I'm over here on the video library. And so there have been people that they did a summit for. And I took an entire master class, and it started with let me see who is a person. How to create, price, and launch your profitable online course. How to design your community powered course. How to create a life-changing community-powered course. Um, how Rite of Passage, which is a community, makes an impact for 1,000 students. A 3-part course launch. I mean, the content that they have that you can watch and read and all of that to learn how to do it. And then you can ask anybody questions. I have DM people I don't even know and said, I heard you talk about this. Can you tell me more about it? And it really is that immersive, engaging, the idea that anybody who would be on Circle wants to be learning like a lifelong learner on any topic. And so, I'm with you, Melissa. This technology is like, whoo-wee, give me something simple.
All right, and that's all on within the Twitter Circles page?
No. I'm on the Circle website. As a paid user. I mean, you get to do a lot of different things. And by being a paid user, I got access to all of these courses. So I've been taking all of these courses and doing that and setting up behind the scenes what my community is looking like. And Misha's like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm trying to send you an invite because you're going to be a moderator. So this is how this works. And I keep saying, how does this look? How does that look? So we're going back and forth in the creation of what my community is going to actually look like when it's up and running. And it's interesting too, Melissa, because they have been really supportive about take one idea at a time and do it. So for me, it's going to be, you have the umbrella so people can come to this location and I'll have, resource information, but I'm doing it specifically right now for the launch of the Purple Sex Reflection deck. So all of my work is focused on that, and hopefully that will be the template for them to do the next one, which will be Scenes with Sex, and then to do the next one, and just set things up to structure it in a way that I know how to work it behind the scenes, and then start having this community come together so they can learn and grow and find out which aspects of sexual wellness they want to work on and where do they see that fit in their life and that sort of thing. Does that help?
It does. So people so in order to take any classes that you offered within Circle, they would have to be on Twitter.
No. Doesn't have anything to do with Twitter.
Okay, I'm really confused. There's Twitter Circles also, right? Am I losing my mind?
Yes, there is such a thing as Twitter Circle, but this is a company called the Circle Community, and that's the name of their company.
Okay, that's where we were going wrong. I was thinking Twitter Circle, and I thought, wow, this is really advanced for Twitter.
This is how my conversations go with sexuality all the time. We're using words, but we don't have them defined the same way.
Okay, I'm really glad that you explained that to me, because I was like, I didn't see any of that. I must be going insane. Thank you.
Well, you and I can talk at another time. We can go in depth on this. But I just thought, wow, it is almost 1:00 and we're coming to a close here. And so I want to give everybody an opportunity to make a final statement about what we're doing. So Rachel, you want to make a final statement on our sexual wellness community space today?
Yeah, I think it was awesome. I mean, I love being here and learning from you and hearing what everybody else has to say. And I appreciate all the different points of view. So I'm glad to be here. And I'm thrilled that your Purple Deck is coming out. When is it available to purchase?
Well, see, that's going to be the interesting part. It's going to depend on when those deck gets in my hand today. So this is like the ARC. It will be arriving in my hand today, and then because this is structurally a little different than building a book, I'll have to go back in to the location and create my marketplace. And so I'm hoping that it's going to be ready for Black Friday.
Now, can you upload that to like Amazon and stuff, different places like that?
Not with this particular company. If I use, there are a couple of other companies that are much, much more expensive that you can use them, and they have a marketplace. But remember and we'll talk about this when I do book marketing.
Yeah.
There's a difference between cards cannot have an ISBN. So you have to have a booklet that has X amount of words in it in order for that to have the ISBN, and then the two go together as a set. So for this project, I'm doing this the simple way, which is here's the deck with a small sheet of paper inside that will tell you how to use it, with the option to download what will, into the future become the ISBN part of the process.
Got it. Yeah, logistically, I definitely want to learn more from you about it, for sure.
Cool. Excellent. Yeah. Thank you for being here today.
Of course. Thank you.
Mistress K, comment before you go.
I'm just loving the big deck energy that I'm getting from you today. That's what I'm just reveling in.
Big deck energy. I love it.
Big deck energy. You're going to have to steal that and put it on a shirt. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Mistress K. I love it. Big deck energy. I'm writing it down.
Yes, I want you to bring that big deck energy to the Monap and tell Big Daddy Kale I said, hey, give him a big hug for me.
I will. That'll be December the 21st is when I'm going to see him. So I'm excited about that. Melissa, final comment.
I just want to say I'm so happy for you, and I'm so proud of you, and it just made my day to hear you so overwhelmed with. It's a huge accomplishment, and I'm just really happy for you and proud of you and happy to have met you. And that's it.
Oh, Melissa, that is so kind. And Misha will tell you of all the projects, and she and I have known each other probably since 2016. Looking at all the projects, I have never had a project that smacked me upside the head and said, sit down, you're doing this now, and boom, it's done. I mean, this was the fastest project I have ever done. And that's probably why the energy feels so darn big in the process. Misha, are you in a place where you can chat?
No.
Maybe. Nope. Gotcha. No problem. Well, so today, what did we discuss? The sexual wellness community that is coming over on circle.so. If you look over your head, Misha's done a wonderful job of putting information up there. So we've got the purple deck. The first tweet to the right is to get a sneak peek of it there. And then book marketing chat information about Rachel. And let's see, Misha's on Patreon, so you got a tweet about that. And there's a Monap, want to be a featured user. She has information up there. And want to learn more about Scenes with Sex, how you can get information there. And she's created a Twitter list of all the folks that have been coming into the sexuality space. So we have a like-minded group. And subscribe to my newsletter, which is always a fun thing to do to keep up on everything that's going on in this space. I have no idea what I'm going to be talking about next week, but I have a feeling it's probably going to have purple in it. So we'll be seeing where that's going to go. I also have a call to Dr. Laurie Mintz, Becoming Cliterate, and I'm hoping that she's going to accept this offer to come speak. So that would be really cool to have her here. So I want everyone to have a delightful rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing what other fun things that we can get into. And I'll be back here next Wednesday, noon Eastern Time, for another edition of the Sexuality Space. Thank you all for being here today.